Episode 90. Your questions answered. We'll get to those here in a few minutes. Full disclosure, I have not slept a wink at all last night. I've been awake just like this since about 9 o'clock yesterday morning. I don't know why. I don't know why that I have not been able to get to sleep. Well, I mean, I have my suspicions that having a broken leg is part of the cause. I have these moments throughout the day where I kind of get down and I've been pretty emotional, and I think some of that has to do with the medications that I'm taking. You know, I'm just not completely right in the head as a result of that, and so as what I'm taking is tapering off, or I won't have to take any of these painkillers and things like that anymore. I'll just be down to Tylenol and ibuprofen and things like that, and off the hard stuff, because I think that's great for the pain, but also like mentally, it's kind of messes with you. So I've had when I've slept, I've had really bizarre dreams that I can't even explain. It's like some kind of modern Charlie in the Chocolate Factory kind of stuff, things that really loopy, bizarre stuff, as you might have on some kind of a drug, and not in a fun way at all. Today, this Tuesday, is 3 weeks post-op of the second surgery that I had. And this coming Friday will be 4 weeks since the accident. And, you know, I was told I can't walk for 3 months. So that 3-month mark at the moment is November 5th. And that's when I'll start being able to get with physical therapy and start doing some weight-bearing things. And we'll see how it goes. So I think, like Johnny is just mentioning here, one of those key elements is to keep the exercises going, and my doctor said the same thing too, is so that the recovery curve could be a little shorter if I keep those things up. So that's a good motivation. I also found out that this type of break that I have in my leg is one of the worst breaks that you can have. So I guess if you're reaching for gold in that area, I found it. Johnny says, can you tell us some of your process of writing songs? Oh, yeah, absolutely. We could dive right in. So from my perspective of writing songs is that I don't play guitar, I don't play bass, I don't sing, I don't play piano. In my head, I'll get a melody line, and I can write lyrics fairly well. For me, I'm telling a story. So the last song that I wrote it's been a while, but it's called Wreckage, and that was about my dad's plane crash and my dad dying in that plane crash. And so it was really storytelling of that whole incident. And if you want to know or hear the song Wreckage, you can go to Midline Band Official on YouTube and see the video for Wreckage. So for me, it starts out by just writing out my thoughts without any thinking of rhyming or phrasing, but it's just writing out the story. So what do I want to say in the song, and what's this story about? So it's a story that I'm telling. So I'll begin that writing process for me by just writing out the story. And then I start shaping that story into different phrasing, and sometimes there needs to be some kind of rhyme or rhythm to that storytelling. So you start crafting those words around that, and pretty soon you have a verse, and you have a pre-chorus, and you have a chorus, and then I can get that melody in my head. And when I get that melody in my head, then I can get together with my bandmates, and I can try my best to either sing what that melody is and the phrasing of the words, or I can just try to emulate in my head what I hear like the guitar or rhythm guitar playing is, because I already have the drum stuff in my head. So that's my process of writing songs, and mostly when I'm writing with the band is, somebody on guitar is, guitarists and singers are pretty good about writing songs, and then my role in the band has been largely like from an arrangement standpoint. So we take these different thoughts and ideas, and then we have to put them in some kind of order. And a lot of times I'm a little heavy-handed in the arrangement side of things. And I think that's probably part of my experience dealing with different producers and stuff that I've recorded with in LA, and trimming the fat, so to speak, and having a really cohesive piece of music. So I put out on Facebook, I said, I'm taking suggestions on what you would want me to talk about. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people responded and gave me ideas, all of which are really great. Let's get started. So Patricia McKinley, she said, "What is the meaning of liberty?" Well, so when you look up Google search or look in the dictionary on liberty, it's freedom from oppression, a lot of times dealing with a political figure or party, but generally, revolving around government and government's control over our lives of what we can and can't do. I suspect that her asking of this may be politically driven, which you're never, ever, ever, ever going to get those discussions from me on this platform. And the reason is, first of all, I'm going to voice my thoughts and opinions and feelings for president when I go to the polls and vote, and I make my mark. That's the extent of it. Patricia, I appreciate the question. I don't know if that helps or not, but my social media stuff is almost 100% about music and drumming, and then my family and fun stuff that we're doing. Do I have problems in my life? Yes, absolutely, 100%. I have problems that come along, as we all do, and I never really feel compelled to share those things publicly. I just really want this whole thing that I'm doing. This is my business card in reality, and I've made awesome friends all over the world through Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. Yeah, that's where all of that lies for me. So there you go. Another question from Greg Goodell. Greg asked, what about artists' mental health issues and dealing with depression? I think that if anybody out there is dealing with mental health issues, and you don't have to be an artist to be having those, I think it's a really smart idea to seek professional help, to contact your doctor and be willing enough to say, I'm experiencing a problem and I need help, because they can put you in touch with a counselor or medication, things like that. So it's strange in the world that we live in now with how much information is available to us, how easy life can be because of technology and convenience and things like that. We don't all have to go out and hunt for food. We can go to the grocery store, but it seems like in present time, as much as available to us, how many people suffer from mental health issues and depression and things like that. I have no statistic to measure off of, but it seems like it's worse now than it ever has been. Why that is, I don't have an answer. All I can tell you is that if you're somebody out there struggling, get help. What about talking about how music can help school children learn to be dedicated to something and to come out of their shell and learning social skills with peers, etc. Yes, I think music is a huge contributor to learning just about anything. And some of what she said, I think, could be related to sports as well, as being part of something and achieving a goal. Like when you're on a sports team, your goal is to learn the sport and to be really good at that, regardless of whatever sport it is. And then you want to win, right? And I think that's true with music. I think I hear about school programs ditching the arts, and maybe it's funding or whatever the cases may be for each individual school. I don't have all the answers, but it breaks my heart when I hear about a school program no longer has music, and they no longer have art class, or they no longer have drama class, or things like that. I think it's just really important to us as humans growing up and being connected to some music and things like that. My buddy Bart Robley wrote a book, but in Bart's book, he talks about how connected we are to things of rhythm, even if it's not musical, like your turn signal in your car, tick, 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 tick. Our breathing, our heartbeat, our walk, all has a rhythm to that. And I think kids not getting some exposure to music, I think that's very sad and a dangerous thing to remove. But some kids are shy, and when they get in a group of something that they can participate in, even if it's like a slow process, that helps give them confidence in what they're doing, and makes them feel like this is something that I actually can do, and I like, and it's fun to be a part of. So let's see. Another comment was from Laura Jewett. She was talking about recording equipment and software. Now, this could be a series of talks, but just to skim over that process really quick. When I was researching what to have to record with, all surrounded about the ability to record drums. So we needed enough inputs to record drums. We needed a computer that was fast enough to be able to record, and all of those things. The technical part of computers and memory and speed goes way above my head. But, my son Christian understands a lot of that, and so he built a supercomputer basically for us to use, and things like that. So, and then having a space to record in. So I built this room, and then had professional help to treat the room properly to capture great recording on drums. So just seeking advice on what programs were best. So, we hear about Pro Tools a lot. We hear about Ableton. You hear about Cubase. There's a whole bunch out there. One was Studio One, and so I was I was heavily influenced by my other recording friends that Studio One would be, oh yeah, Mary says Logic. Studio One is a really great program to use because it's really similar to Pro Tools in a lot of ways, and it's also similar to Logic in a lot of ways. And so for what we were doing in the learning process, it was heavily suggested to go with Studio One by Presonus, so that's what we did. And we got a 24-channel interface to do that. So if I record my full drum kit, use all the toms, overheads, room mics, ride cymbal mic, I've got 14 inputs that we're using. So being able to do that was really important. So for Laura, who is a singer, she doesn't need 24 inputs. There's smaller interfaces that you can get with, 1 or 2 inputs, and having a really great microphone to sing into is great. And you can record vocals in a kind of a deadened room. A lot of times people record vocals in a closet or something like that because they're not getting all this reflection. The producer's weighing in here, so she says FL Studio, Logic, Studio One, Cubase, Cakewalk, Pro Tools, GarageBand, etc. Oh, then she says Spencer. So Laura's husband, is a drummer. So Joff says, what's in the little box alongside all the drummers playing live these days? Click tracks preset for each song? Yeah, it could be. It could be. So I have this little station. Like I said, I've got a little 3-channel mixer. One is an XLR channel. The other 2 are 1/4 inch. So I have that, and then next to it I use the Boss DB90 that has, I can program up to 50 some tempos in. So I just turn the dial to the next one if I program them all. With Cliff Miller, I can't really program all the clicks in a row because sometimes we start jumping around in the set, and so then that whole idea is completely gone. But it only takes me a second to scroll to the next tempo that I want to use. So I do that. Sometimes people use iPads to run a click from, or they have their ears going or whatever. So a lot of times that's probably what you see next to a drummer is just a little station like that with a little mixer, and depending on what band you're in, and what they're doing, is going to determine what extra gear they have next to them. Sean Haggerty, he said he was having problems with practice pad versus feel of playing the actual drum kit. Body posture seems to change according to which one he's doing. All right, so this will be a very fast little drum lesson here. So, Sean, I'm going to tell you what my approach is. My approach. Other drum teachers might have a variation of what I'm going to tell you. It doesn't mean that I'm wrong and they're right, or they're right and I'm wrong. First of all, playing different surfaces is a good idea. Play different kinds of pads and then play on your drums, and that will help develop so many things in your hands and your arms. Let's see. I play with my hands facing down like this, and my wrist moves like this. So imagine playing the drums, but you don't have sticks in your hand. What would be your approach to playing the drums? Usually, if I ask somebody this, they just naturally will play like this. They won't play like this, like they're chopping. They won't play like this. They're going to play with their hands facing down. Now, why is that? Well, because you can hit drums like this and not injure yourself, because you're kind of flicking your fingers as you move, and your wrists are moving up and down. So a lot of times with brand new students, they have these thoughts in their mind, like they'll do double traditional, right? They're holding. I have to put my hands close. They'll hold sticks like because they saw this on TV or something, you know, or they'll hold traditional backwards or whatever, or they'll hold their sticks like this. So I'll say, let's take the sticks out of the hands. Now play the drum, and they'll usually naturally just go to this. I'm like, okay, that's going to be our approach, but we're just going to do it with sticks in our hands. So hands are still facing down, and now we have the sticks, and we're going to play like that. So Sean, I will tell you, if you want to do a Zoom lesson with me, we could do like an hour-long one-off Zoom lesson, and we could look at how things are set up. But let's see, I have this Vader drum pad right here. So this is a harder side, and this is a little bit softer side, Vader drum pad. So I will set this pad up so that the Vader logo is upside down in relationship to me, so that this part is here. But I want my students to have this shape with their sticks, this V shape, which is a 90-degree angle. So if you turn it, let's see, can I do this? There we go. I'm backwards, so this is fun. So we're looking for this 90-degree angle, and it's just going to sit here like that. So that's what I'm looking for in my approach, is to have this shape out in front of me. And then when I leave my left hand where it is and I move my right hand to the hi-hat, I still have that shape going. So anyway, that discussion's way longer than what we have time for, but make sure that your posture is really good. Not that you're a statue, but that you can sit up straight, relax shoulders. Everything's from a relaxed position. When I hold my sticks, it's between my pointer finger and my thumb, and it's just enough that the stick doesn't fall out of my hand, but it's not tight. Nothing I do is where I'm gripping with a lot of tension. So everything's very, very loose. There's some videos out there where I think it might be Jim Chapin is on YouTube. You can look at him, but he was talking about pretend you're holding a bird in your hand, and your thumb and your finger are going to hold and support the bird's head, and that these are going to keep him from flying away. You're not going to go like that to the bird. You're going to kill the bird, and you're not going to let go because the bird's going to fly away. So you're just going to gently hold the bird in your hand. Now, sometimes I might switch to here, how I'm holding the stick, but again, that's a much deeper discussion, but I start everybody here. So I hope that helps. Joffrey says, open style versus closed on a hi-hats both seem valid and must have in one's repertoire. Okay, so hi-hat. I think, if I'm interpreting this right, you're talking about open-handed playing versus crossed. So cross is how I play most of the time, but open hand means that you're just opening your hands up so that you would be playing hi-hat with your left hand and your snare drum with your right. I also do that. There are some guys out there that they play open-handed, and that's their approach, and they're phenomenal drummers. I do not have that skill set at that level to play open-handed all the time. And that's one of those things where I've seen some pretty heated discussions on the internet over if you should or shouldn't do that. I kind of weave in and out of both depending on what I'm doing. You can get a lot of great rhythms and stuff to happen by playing open-handed as you can playing crossed over. So I think whatever works best for you is the way to go. Same with right-handed drummers versus left-handed drummers. I've had left-handed drummers come in this door, but they play right-handed drums. And they don't have any other forethought about that except that's how a drum set's set up, so that's how they learn. Other people walk in the door and they're left-handed, and they need to play the drum set up for left-handed. So everything's basically a mirror image of a right-handed setup. Johnny says, do you always play the upbeats with your foot on the hi-hat, particularly on fills? I Not always. Sometimes I'll play the downbeat. Sometimes I can chuck along eighth notes with my left foot and play fills, or play the quarter note, or play have the up, just like you're saying. It's for me, it's a musical choice. Like, what am I wanting to hear in this particular moment? And this is another discussion that can go for a long, long time, is like, where is time coming from on the drum kit? Well, people say, oh, it's coming from the bass drum, or it's coming from the snare drum. My belief is that time is coming from the hi-hat or the ride cymbal, because it's typically the most consistent thing. We're either playing quarter notes or subdividing eighth notes, or we might be playing 16th notes, but it's either giving the whole band or giving the whole band or, and that is a pulse that we're giving the whole band. And so when you're doing a drum fill, I think if you can evolve your left foot to keep the quarter note pulse, or and, I think that makes you a tighter drummer. And I think it also helps cement the band through that moment that you're playing a drum fill. And I always think of the hi-hat as another anchor point in the rhythm, in our four-way independence. So if we're playing the kick drum and we're playing the hi-hat and we're playing our fills or our cymbals or something like that, we have four things that are anchoring the rhythm or anchoring the pulse down. And I think that helps us keep better time. So getting that hi-hat involved, I think, is crucial. And yeah, keep it up. Kyle Christensen said, how do you get better at heavily syncopated parts? Sign up for lessons with somebody. I think Kyle mostly plays bass, but I think he might also play drums. There are a lot of great books out there that deal with syncopation. There's a book called Syncopation. There's a book that I like to use right here by John Pickering. It's called The Drummer's Cookbook. This is chock full of syncopated drum beats. And it's knowing what subdivision of a beat that you're going to play on. Are you going to play... things like that? Or is it just straight? I think the best thing to do is just sign up for lessons with somebody. Me would be great, but anybody that can help you with that. But it's knowing which partial. Like if you subdivide the whole measure, 1 eanda, 2 eanda, 3 eanda, 4 eanda, that's how we count our 16th notes. Like which partial of that are we playing the snare or the kick and groupings like that. So yeah, I would definitely get together with somebody that can show you and explain that in greater detail than what I can in 30 seconds here. The cool thing about drumming is it's so customizable, this instrument, to our own personal tastes and abilities. It's not like a guitar where, you have a right-hand guitar or you have a left-handed guitar. And I'm sure there's a lot of options in guitars on choices of strings that you use and brands of guitars and pickups and cables and, things that are a little beyond my scope of knowledge. But drums, there's just so many different ways to set up and customize the drum kit to fit your style and what works for you. But Johnny, if you're having trouble with some of this stuff, man, I do lessons by Zoom. Looks like you're in New York. If you ever want to do a few Zoom lessons or something, awesome. Or go find a great teacher that's near you that you can go see in person and get help if that's what you need. Katie's question and Daniel's question together. So Katie said, talking about taking steps to chase your dreams and or passion. And then Daniel said how he wanted to know more information on how you turned your passion for drumming into a career and actually make it work and pay the bills. We all have a desire on what we want to do with our lives. And then some of those seem like they're so far out of reach, or they seem impossible to do. So how do you make it possible? Well, for me, I made a conscious decision to seek out people who were already doing it and that could help guide me in this process. And the process requires work and dedication, as anything that you do does. So for me, a person that played a large role in that was Matt Starr. I've talked about my buddy Matt Starr a few different times throughout this. I owe a lot to him, a lot of gratitude, and I actually talked to him on the phone last week, and because we were talking about my broken leg and him being inspired like me trying to keep my spirits up through all this. So A is finding out from somebody that's already doing it. Now, for some of you out there, I might be that guy. And if I'm that guy, awesome. And if you want to know more, you can definitely message me or whatever. But it's kind of reverse engineering your life. Like, we all have a financial commitment, right? We got mortgages, we've got bills, which bills seem to never stop. And then the quality of life you want to have. Well, how much money do you need to be able to have the life that you're looking for? So finances are a huge component in this, and it cannot and should not be ignored. So it's looking like, well, I need to have this much to accomplish what I want to do. Okay, well, now how can you make money for me, how can I make money from music to fulfill those commitments? Well, I had already been teaching drum lessons. I've taught drum lessons off and on since I was 17 years old, and I'm pretty comfortable teaching drum lessons. I'm a way better teacher now than I was when I was 17. I'm 52 now, which always catches me by surprise to even say that. But with the bands I've had, with these little peaks of success I've had, and visibility I've had, made it to where people want to take drum lessons because they see the results of what I'm doing. So when I first was trying to figure that out, and Matt was coaching me, Matt said, okay, make teaching your number one source of income. And then once you have that down, then start spreading into other things. So for me, it was getting the teach. And at that time, I think I only had like 12 students because I was just doing it like in the evening after I was done with my day job. So, I live in Boise, Idaho, and I'm looking around, I'm like, are there enough people in this town that actually want to take drum lessons that, are going to financially take care of me at the same time? Turns out the answer is yes. And there's a handful of drum teachers in town who all have pretty full schedules. So there's quite a few people out there that want to play the drums, and there's a demand for drum teachers. So, so that seems to be working out. He says, I appreciate everything. Yes, sir. How old were you when you started learning? I was 10 years old, Johnny, when I started drumming. So the producer, my wife here, Mary, just gave you a list to anybody out there that wants to know kind of our process here of what we did. So mine fell into three categories, and since then it's spread out even a little bit more, but it was make teaching my number one thing, like focus on that. Like I wasn't trying to focus on 10 things. I was focusing on one thing, and that was to get teaching, and then figuring out like I need to charge a certain amount, and I need to have a certain amount of students that are going to cover that financial commitment. And since even then, my rate has gone up twice on that, and I didn't lose any students when I raised my pricing. Just reverse engineering your life, Daniel and Katie, on those things. Now what else can I do? Well, I had this room built, and then I built the control room and wanted to offer recording drum tracks for people as a session musician, which I had already done quite a bit of work in that, but it was either flying to LA and working there, which is great, and I love doing that, or booking time at another local studio and tracking and doing drums there. And I would do that primarily at the Mix House with Scott Burgandy. So now I'm always mic'd up and ready to go, and I'm always ready to record, minus the broken leg, which has been a little bit of a setback. The week I was supposed to come home from Indianapolis, I had 3 songs to track, and for the same person who I had tracked 2 other songs for in the past. So I called him, and he knows the situation, and thankfully he's willing to wait until I'm better, because he was so happy with the first 2 songs that I did. He's like, yeah, I don't want to hire anybody else. So, you start building those relationships, and those relationships are really great to have. But yeah, I love talking about that because I get really excited. I was, Greg mentioned artist mental health. In 2019, I was, which was that 6 years ago, I think. Am I doing my math right? I think so. In 2019, I was like really hitting a wall with my landscape business and really unhappy personally about where I was with music. And so I decided, you know what? I'm going to figure out a way to make music work. And that's what I did.